Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. I hope your day is going great. Mine's been awesome so far, especially because we got the juice today, boys. The suspension list is here, and 7 Overwatch League players have been punished by the Overwatch League. That's right, guys, 7 of them. We have players all across the league getting in trouble. Florida Mayhem, Hangzhou Spark, Toronto Defiant, the LA Gladiators, Guangzhou Charge, and then lastly, a player from the San Francisco Shock. We're going to go over every single player that got suspended, what they did, how long they're banned for, so if you guys are excited for that, be sure to drop a like on this video. Then moving on to the second part of this video, we are going to be talking about Jayne, because today on his stream, he gave an unofficial power rankings list, or somewhat of one, and he said some very interesting things. As well as that, he also called out his players on the Dallas field, Zachary, OG, and NAKO, all caught triple stacking against him, and he wasn't happy about it, so that was funny. Anyways, if you guys want to get involved in the huge Overwatch League giveaway, I'm dropping like 350 items from snapbacks, jerseys, shirts, socks, scarves, pretty much anything in the Overwatch League store I'm giving away, and all you have to do is subscribe. Anyways, now without further ado, let's hop into the video. So this was posted earlier today on the Overwatch League website, 2019 Player Discipline Tracker. Throughout the 2019 season, we will maintain a list of players who were disciplined for infractions of the Overwatch League rules of competition and code of conduct. As players join the Overwatch League, the offices conduct a full review of their conduct and where appropriate takes disciplinary action. While the league reviews each case on its own, key factors informing the level of discipline include the severity and recency of the actions under review. During the season, the league office will continue to evaluate infractions and take action as needed. The following list does not include players who are not currently under contract with an Overwatch League team but might face suspension or fines should they return to league play. In addition, players who have previously served penalties while playing in contenders are generally not subject to further discipline upon joining Overwatch League. So that was the official statement. Now let's go ahead and hop into the players that were suspended and what for. First, we have the Florida Mayhem. We're looking at their DPS player, Apply. Now, Apply is a two-way player, so technically this isn't going to affect the main Overwatch League team that much, but will more affect the contenders team. Now, looking into the reason why he's getting suspended, it is because he was caught boosting by the Overwatch League offices, and they have given him a 2-game suspension for it. Now, 2 games seems to be a lot on the light end, so Apply probably didn't boost that much. Maybe he did it one time, or maybe he just boosted like a friend or something where he didn't get money back in return. Because if we look at the boosting suspensions from Season 1, we have OG, he got 4 games, that's also on the lighter end, and then we had Sato, who got 30 games. That's crazy. Not too bad, only 2 games. I wouldn't worry too much about that, since again, he isn't a key player on this roster. Moving on to the next one, we have Color Hex from the Boston Uprising. Now, this one is huge. If you guys remember, the Boston Uprising only have 2 DPS players, Color Hex and Blase. So that means for the first 2 games of the regular season, they're not even going to have their 2 DPS players available. That's a massive hit, and depending on the meta, it could really kill them. The only way I don't see this being a massive problem for the Boston Uprising is if it's still GOATS meta, which honestly I think is unlikely. If it does happen to still be GOATS meta, then they might be okay because they do have 3 supports, and I'm assuming one of them might be decent at playing Brigitte. Let's be honest, it's probably the easiest hero in the entire game, and I'm guessing that their support players can play it. But that's only if GOATS meta is still here. I feel like something by the Overwatch League starting is going to be bigger and better. And yeah, Color Hex was also suspended for account boosting. I'm assuming it's similar to the Apply thing. He probably boosted a friend or just didn't do it for money. Not really sure what it is. I'll have to try to get some information on that. I wonder if it will be leaked to anybody. I feel like it probably will stay under wraps unless the players talk about it, which is unlikely because they already got in trouble for it. I'm assuming the organization is like, hey, don't talk about it at all, take your suspension, boom, it's over, then you start playing again. But yeah, the Boston Uprising are going to be in trouble. They only have 2 DPS players. Losing Color Hex, that's going to be a major hit. I don't know if the Boston Uprising have another guy hidden that they haven't announced yet. I feel like maybe they do because Blase and Color Hex they're not a great duo. They're going to get outclassed by all the other DPS players in the league. I'm saying it. So that's it for the Boston Uprising. Let's move on to the 3rd suspension. We have Crystal from the Hangzhou Spark, who has been suspended for only 1 game for account boosting. So now this really says that maybe Crystal probably just boosted boosted a friend or like a sibling for free, no money involved, and he got in trouble for that because there's no way these guys are boosting for money and only getting 1 game or 2 game suspensions, especially after how the league handled boosting last season. Literally, we had a 30-game suspension. 1 game is not comparable to that at all. And for those of you guys who don't even know who Crystal is, he is a DPS player on the Hangzhou Spark, but they do have other players who will be able to fill that role while he is suspended for his first game, so this really doesn't mean anything for them. They just have a player who can't make the first game. Now, Hangzhou Spark did make an official statement on this on Twitter. Let's go and take a look at what they said. The Overwatch League announced that Crystal will be suspended for 1 game for account boosting behavior before joining Spark. Hangzhou team fully support the Overwatch League decision, and we give Crystal a serious warning. Hangzhou Spark promise that we will consistently discipline our roster and always welcome community scrutiny. Please accept our sincere apology. That's it. So Hangzhou Spark, not really affected. They'll be fine. Let's go and move on now to the next one. And this one is really interesting because we have NAKO from the Toronto Defiant. Now, NAKO got in trouble, or not in trouble, he was actually exposed during the playoffs of Season 1. Well, he exposed himself. He literally tweeted out that he had accounts shared in the past and traded accounts and also boosted, but nothing happened to him. Boston Uprising, they put it under wraps and they made sure that NAKO was available for the playoffs, and then they tossed him away to the Toronto Defiant, and now Toronto Defiant have to deal with this suspension, which is going to be 3 games for boosting, account sharing, and then last one, which is interesting, obstructing league office investigation. Now, I would love to know exactly what that means. Was NAKO trying to was he trying to mess with the investigation? I have no idea what this means. I want to figure it out. Let me know down below what you guys think this is in the comments, because it's pretty wild, and for only getting 3 games for all of this is pretty crazy. I kind of feel like somebody who was in the Overwatch League, who did account boost and account share, and then try to hide it, and then, not get in trouble with the league, should get a pretty big suspension. Maybe at least 7 games? I don't know, that's just me. This one's really weird. I don't know exactly what it means though, so I guess we'll just wait and see if something comes out. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. And the funny thing is, this one is the most severe one on this entire list. It's about Ripa from the LA Gladiators, their new support player that they signed from Giganti. He was suspended for 5 games for throwing matches and toxicity. Now, that's really interesting because the biggest penalty on this entire list is Ripa, and it's not for boosting. Everybody else on this list is boosting. Ripa got in trouble for toxicity and match throwing. I wonder when this happened. It must have been very, very recent, and all these other punishments have to be for really old things, because there's no way that a guy got in trouble for toxicity and got a more harsh punishment than people who boosted. If you look at these from a Korean perspective, they would be furious that these guys barely got in trouble for account boosting, while this guy who was a little toxic and threw matches, again, I don't know how toxic he was, I'm just assuming he was a little toxic and threw some games, got a more severe punishment. They would be pissed. And I kind of understand why. I'm just assuming that Ripa had to be extremely toxic then. There's no other way to really put this into perspective other than that Ripa threw a lot of games and he was really toxic. Maybe he was doing it on a Smurf where people didn't know it was him, he didn't do it on stream, and Blizzard, they did an IP check on somebody who was being really toxic and figured out it was an Overwatch League player. That's the only thing that really makes sense to me as to why this is the most harsh punishment. Other than that, it's just that all these other guys really had not boosted that much or just did it for a friend, not for money. That's the only way to make sense of this to me. Anyways, let's move on to the next guy. And we have Rise from the Guangzhou Charge, who was fined $1,000 for just account sharing. So this one really isn't that bad. He's not going to miss any games. He's just getting fined $1,000 and not a lot of money. They get paid guaranteed $50,000. He's probably around the 80K mark, so I'm sure he's happy with the light punishment. That's pretty much it for Rise. Now let's move on to the next one, which is a very interesting one. We have Violet from the San Francisco Shock, who was suspended for 2 games for account boosting. Now this one isn't that big of a deal either, because San Francisco Shock, they do have Sleepy in their back pocket, so they don't have to worry about not having a flex support player. Sleepy's also really good, and it's only 2 games. This is what San Francisco Shock tweeted out about the statement. At the start of Season 2, Violet will serve a 2-game suspension due to instances of account boosting before his time with San Francisco Shock. Violet did not receive any incentives or compensation for boosting. Violet would like to sincerely apologize to the Shock and his fans. Oh, okay, so this basically confirms it then. Everybody who got suspended for 2 games did not do it for money. They probably just boosted a friend. This makes me believe that there are some other harsh punishments that will come out for Overwatch League players that actually did boost for money and are going to get in big trouble with big suspensions. So I guess we should stay tuned for that. But now let's go ahead and move on and talk about Jayne's power rankings, because he said some real interesting stuff today.
Jayne, can you give us an OWL power ranking? Obviously with Fuel at the top. If not specific, give a rough summary of where you think his team will land at. I feel like all the playoff teams, barring Boston, will be just as strong next season. Barring Boston. So I don't think DC is going to be very strong. Like, Wizard even did an interview on Action Esports recently where he said that he's losing like all of his scrims or something like that. So I don't know. DC is going to be one of those kind of like slow starters, but really high performers. Boston, not sure about. London, New York, Shock. Those are all going to be pretty good teams. Interesting.
Unlucky.
Team.
Maybe go next.
You motherfuckers.
Can you go and like unplug their internet? Does that work?
Fuck, are they even streaming? None of those fuckers are streaming.
3 stacking off stream, absolutely disgusting.
All benched.
Trade me.
OG Unco and Zachary. Oh my god.
Okay, this will be fine. Everything is fine. Okay.
Okay. Can you turn your stream on? I'm gonna host you after this one.
Okay.
Just like be prepared.
They're all benched, boys. Anyways, let's go ahead and focus more on the power rankings, even though that was really funny. So he said that DC has been losing like all their scrims, and he thinks they're going to have a really slow start. And this was my main reason for putting them at number 19. They have the hardest schedule out of any team in the Overwatch League for the first stage. They're going to get pummeled, guys. 0-7 guaranteed. Now, he did say that they could end up being really strong, but honestly, I don't think so. I feel like with all the language barriers, all the different coaches, different players from different areas in the world, they're not going to come together. I just don't see it working out in the first season for them. Maybe in their second season it will, but honestly, I don't know. He also mentioned the Boston Uprising struggling and being the only team who made the playoffs last season who are going to fall out of it, and I completely agree on that as well. San Francisco Shock, London Spitfire, New York, they're all going to be good. Pretty much everything Jayne said here, I completely agree with, so that's pretty much going to be the video. If you guys did enjoy it, be sure to subscribe, and that's going to be it, guys. See you later. Peace.